Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Soul Whispers Coming Home to You. This is episode 13, Love Bombing, the Seduction Before the Storm. Let's begin by taking one slow breath together, in through the nose and slowly out through the mouth. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw release, and let this time be what it is, a time that belongs entirely to you. I'm Susan, certified somatic trauma-informed coach, and all of my credentials are in the show notes below. I am someone who spent nearly 4 decades in a relationship that had moments of joy and moments built on intermittent reinforcement, gaslighting, and walking on eggshells. And all of these pieces created the perfect storm for a trauma bond. I am here because my deepest wish is to help the person I used to be. You see, I found my own way back to myself once I finally had the language for what I had lived. And I am here to give you that language, those tools, and the reminder that the power to heal has always been inside you. 13 episodes. Last week, we sat together under the blue moon in Sagittarius, and we did something significant. We found the old program that's been running in the subconscious, and we gave it a new instruction. I hope you wrote yours down. I hope it is somewhere that you see every morning. Today, we are in the softer, more reflective energy of the waning gibbous. The blue moon's full illumination has passed, and what remains is integration. The gentle, honest reckoning with what the light revealed. And today, in that spirit, we go to the beginning, to the part of the story that so often gets left out of the conversation about narcissistic relationships. We go to the love bombing, the extraordinary, intoxicating, completely manufactured intensity of the beginning. And we look at it through the most compassionate lens I know. Not just asking what it was, but asking why a part of us needed it so desperately that we followed it all the way in. I was 14 years old when I met him. 14. And the beginning felt like nothing I had ever experienced. The attention, the way he looked at me as if I was the only person in the room. The certainty with which he pursued me, not tentatively, not gradually, but with a kind of overwhelming completeness that felt, to a 14-year-old girl who was still learning who she was, like being chosen. I want to sit with that for a moment. Chosen. The specific feeling of being signaled out by someone who seemed, in those early weeks and months, to see you more fully than you have ever been seen before. What I understand now, with everything I know about love bombing, about intermittent reinforcement, about the neuroscience of attachment and the IFS framework, is that the part of me that responded to being chosen was not naive. She was not foolish. She was a young girl who had a very real and very human need to be seen, to be loved, to matter to someone in the particular way that only felt possible in the intensity of that beginning. The love bombing did not find a weakness in me. It found a need, a completely legitimate, deeply human need that every one of us carries. And it offered that need exactly what it was looking for, before revealing, slowly and over years, what it would cost me. The part of me that believed the love bombing was not broken. She was hungry, and she was given exactly what hunger looks for, the thing that looked like what she needed most. I'm not ashamed of that part anymore. I have sat with her in IFS work, in the somatic practice, in the quiet morning meditations. And what I found every single time is that she was doing the most natural thing in the world. She was reaching toward love. She just didn't yet know the difference between the real thing and a very convincing simulation of it. That is not failing. That is being human. It is one of the most important things I can say to anyone who has ever asked themselves, how did I not see it? You saw what you were shown, and what you were shown was designed with extraordinary precision to be believed. And perhaps your story's different from mine. Perhaps you were 14 years old. Perhaps the love bombing arrived in a marriage that had gone cold and then suddenly, inexplicably became warm again, in a friendship that began with breathtaking intensity, or even in a workplace relationship that felt finally like you were being recognized. The form it takes shifts. The felt experience of being seen, chosen, overwhelmed with a love that feels too good to question, well, that is universal. Now, with astrology and how it plays a part, we are in the waning gibbous in Pisces, the soft, intuitive light after the blue moon's full illumination. Pisces brings emotional depth, heightened intuition, and the willingness to feel what we have been managing around. This is the perfect energy for today's episode, not the confrontation of the full moon, but the quiet, honest, compassionate examination of what the light revealed. The love bombing seen clearly, without the charge, with all the softness it deserves. So what is love bombing exactly? Well, love bombing is the deliberate, though not always fully conscious, overwhelming of another person with affection, attention, adoration in the early stages of a relationship. It is characterized by an intensity that far outpaces what the relationship has had time to earn. Daily text from the very first week, declarations of connection that feel too significant for the amount of time that's passed. Sometimes receiving extravagant gifts or romantic getaways that would normally be reserved for a relationship that existed for, months and months, or at least a year. The sense of being understood completely and immediately, and before you have had the opportunity to show who you actually are in ordinary circumstances. And then there's the mirroring. Without you even realizing it's happening, they reflect your values, your interest, your way of seeing the world back to you. It feels magical. It feels like you finally met the person who truly gets you, like the universe sent you exactly what you've been waiting for. That feeling is not your imagination. It is the point. It feels like the most extraordinary love you have ever experienced because it's calibrated, however unconsciously, to feel exactly like that. The person doing the love bombing is not necessarily calculating. In many cases, the early stage is genuinely felt. The narcissistic person experiences real euphoria in the pursuit, real activation in the idealization phase. What they cannot sustain is the ordinary reality of a relationship once the idealization gives way to the real person. And that is when the withdrawal begins. The same person who was everywhere is suddenly less present. The warmth that was constant now becomes unpredictable. The extraordinary love shifts into something that requires you to earn it back. Love bombing is not the beginning of the relationship. It's the hook. It is the neurological event that creates the bond so strong that everything that comes after it, the withdrawal, the criticism, the walking on eggshells, is experienced in the context of trying to get back to the beginning. Now, when you are in the love bombing phase, your brain is doing something very specific. Dopamine, the anticipation chemical, floods your system. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, begins to form the attachment. The nervous system, which has been waiting for exactly this kind of safety signal, responds as if it has found what it has always needed. The attachment is formed before you have real information about the person, before you have seen them in conflict and stress, in the ordinary and unremarkable moments where character is actually revealed. The bond is built in ideal conditions that are not conditions at all. They are a performance. And by the time reality arrives, the bond is already established. The nervous system is already invested, and the subconscious program is already running. This is why leaving feels so difficult, even when understanding is complete. The bond was formed at the neurological level before the mind had the information to make a different choice. Now let's look through the IFS lens. When I look at my own experience of love bombing through the IFS framework, I can see three distinct parts at work simultaneously, and understanding each of them has been one of the most liberating things I have ever done. The first is the exile, the wounded part, the part that needed the love, the young part, that formed long before the relationship began, that carried the deep human hunger to be truly seen and chosen. This part did not create a vulnerability. It existed, as all exiles exist, as the carrier of a genuine need. The love bombing found her, and she responded with everything she had. The second is the manager, the part that explained it all away, the part that took every red flag, every moment of unexplained coldness, everything that didn't quite add up, and constructed the most generous possible interpretation. Not because she was stupid, because the exile's need was so strong that the manager was willing to work very, very hard to protect access to what seemed to be meeting it. The third is the part that always knew. This one is the most important to name, because it is the one most people are ashamed of. The part that sensed something was off very early on. The stomach drop that arrived before the thought, the moment of something in the eyes that you caught and then immediately explained away. That knowing part was not overridden because you were weak. It was overridden because the exile's need was louder. And the exile's need was louder because it was formed in circumstances long before the relationship, where the need was not consistently met. The love bombing exploited a wound that already existed. It did not create a new one. Understanding this does not excuse the love bombing. It does not minimize what happened, but what it does, it takes the responsibility for not seeing it off your shoulders and places it where it actually belongs, on the pattern that was designed to bypass your discernment. And it opens the door to meeting the exile who needed the love with the compassion she deserves rather than the shame she's been carrying. Now I want to speak to the part of you that has been carrying shame, perhaps about the beginning. The part that returns to those first few weeks or months and thinks, how did I not see it? How did I let myself be so completely taken in? What does it say about me that I believe something so completely that turned out to be so constructed? When I think back to my relationship when I was that young, naive 14-year-old girl, I did have plenty of red flags. I was not aware of what red flags meant. I just knew something was completely off. However, I truly believed in my heart I could save him, for lack of saying it a better way. I felt like I could help him and show him what love is and support him. He came from a very difficult childhood. But that did not take away the fact that I was unaware of the love bombing that was happening and my inner child and my inner wounds in my exile that was really needing that void to be filled. Now, when I ask, what does it say about you that you believe something so completely that turned out to be so wrong? It says you are human. You have needs, real, legitimate, beautiful needs for love and connection and to be truly seen. It says that you responded, as every human being is wired to respond, to something that appeared to meet those needs. It says that your heart was open and that it was not failing. That is one of the most generous things a person can be. The exile who needed the love did not make a mistake. She reached toward what looked like exactly what she was looking for. And she deserves not your shame. She deserves your understanding, your compassion, and the experience of finally having those needs met in a way that is real. God, the universe and source, the intelligence that guides this healing journey, does not see you through the lens of the love bombing. It sees the whole story, the need, the hunger, the reaching toward connection, the extraordinary loyalty you gave to something that could not give it back. And it sees the person who's sitting here, 13 episodes in, doing the honest, courageous work of understanding what happened so it will not happen again. The whisper from your soul that brought you here today was not bringing you back to shame, that part that believed. It's bringing you here to free her. Now let's do a little somatic practice, meeting the part that believed. And it's a gentle one. So if you would, sit quietly, close your eyes, and begin with 3 vagus nerve breaths. That would be in for 4, hold for 2, and slowly exhale through your mouth for 7. Letting your body relax as you're taking these breaths. Noticing your shoulders drop, and even letting your jaw release. This is where we hold the most tension. Now, bring the mind to the beginning of the relationship. Not the difficult parts, but the very beginning, the first weeks of the love bombing, the intensity of it, the feeling of being chosen. And instead of going into what happened next, I want you to stay there for a moment and notice the part of you that is present in that memory. The part of you that's responding to the love bombing. How old does she feel? What does she need? What is she reaching for? And then notice from your higher self, from the calm, compassionate, wise part of you that's been coming home for all these times and episodes. Turn toward her. Not to tell her she's wrong, not to tell her she should have known better, but simply to see her, to acknowledge her, and then say to her, I understand now why you believed it. You needed exactly what it appeared to offer. And I am not angry at you for reaching toward it. I love you for reaching toward it. And I am going to make sure that what you need is something you receive from a real source, from yourself first, and from the right people in time. And take a nice slow breath in and out. Stay with that feeling just for a moment. This is the beginning of healing the wound that the love bombing found. Not the relationship that exploited it, but the wound itself. Now let's begin your guided meditation. Find a comfortable position, feet on the floor if you can, and just feel and imagine the ground beneath you. Solid, patient, completely on your side. Take another slow breath in through your nose and a longer exhale through your mouth. Again, letting your shoulders drop, feeling your body relax, feeling the waning light of this week, the gentle, reflective, soft energy. The moon in Pisces, where intuition lives, where emotion is allowed to simply be felt rather than managed. Let yourself be here in that energy. Feel it all around you, soft, healing. You are safe. And today, however tender it might feel, is done from the safest place you've been in a very long time, surrounded by your higher spiritual self, angels, guides, whatever source you believe in. Feel that beautiful healing energy and protection all around you. Now, before we meet the exile, find the higher self. Notice somewhere in your body a quality of calm, even just a thread of it, where there's a steadiness, a slight warmth, a sense of being present without being overwhelmed. That is the higher self, the part of you that has been growing stronger through every week, through the breath practices, the parts work, the subconscious reprogramming we did last week. It is more available to you now than it was 13 weeks ago. Let it be fully present. Let it lead you. Feel the spiritual higher self greeting you, flowing through your body. And breathe. God, the universe and source, present in this stillness, in this self-energy, in the warmth that's always been here beneath all the protecting and managing, is filling up this beautiful space around you, holding this meditation and holding you. Now I want to invite you to go back gently to the beginning of a relationship, not to re-experience it, just to visit it from a distance with the self as your anchor. Now allow yourself to see the early days, the intensity, the attention, the feeling of being chosen, not through the eyes of everything that happened afterwards, just as it was then, just the feeling of it. And notice the part of you that is present in that memory. The part of you that was responding to the love bombing. She might feel younger than your current age. She might feel the particular quality of someone who has been waiting a long time for this. Now from the higher spiritual self, turn toward her, that younger version of you, not to judge her, not to tell her what happens next, just see her with compassion. And ask her gently, what did you need most at this beginning? What were you reaching for when you reached towards this? let whatever she offers arrive. It might come in words. It might come as a feeling in the body, a longing in the chest that's warm or feels like an ache, an emptiness. It might come as an image of something younger, something even earlier, something that predated this relationship entirely. Whatever she offers, receive it without judgment, without the correction of what you know now. Remember, she is an exile, a younger version who does not need judgment but needs love and compassion. And say to her from your higher spiritual self, I know what you needed, and I know why you believed it when it appeared. You were not wrong to need it. You were not wrong to reach toward it. The need was real, even when the source turned out not to be. And I am here now, the grown version of us. And I am going to make sure that need is met. Not from that source, but from something real. And breathe. Now feel into what happens in the exile, that younger version of you, when the higher spiritual self said that. Even the smallest shift. What's happening in your body? A slight softening, a breath that comes more easily. You may even feel emotional, a sense of something that loosens in the chest. That's real. That is the exile beginning to trust that she does not have to reach toward the wrong source anymore. Because the right source, the higher spiritual self, the love within, the real relationships that are possible now, is here. Now, very gently, I want to acknowledge one more part. The part that always sensed something was off. The one that caught the moment in his eyes and immediately explained it away. The one whose stomach dropped sometimes without warning and was quickly managed back into calm. The explanations you gave yourself and others when you knew in your heart they were just masking what was wrong. Go ahead and turn toward that part right now with the same compassion. And from your higher spiritual self, as you acknowledge that part, go ahead and say, I hear you too. I know you were speaking. I know the exile's need was louder. And you were not overridden because you were wrong. You were right. Every single time. You are the knowing. You are the compass. And now that the exile's need is being met in a different way, you don't have to fight to be heard anymore. I'm listening. I'm here. And breathe. Now bring your hand to your heart. Feel the steady beat beneath your palm. the exile who needed the love, the manager who protected her, the part that always knew, the higher spiritual self that is now finally able to hold all of them at once, with compassion for each of them, with the wisdom that comes from all these weeks of coming home to you. The whisper from your soul that brought you here was always trying to bring these parts together, to introduce them to each other, to help the exile know she is safe and in the higher spiritual self's care, to help the knowing part trust it will finally be listened to help the manager rest, because the system is being led now by something wiser and steadier than the urgent protection it had to provide. As you continue to meet each part with curiosity and compassion, as the higher spiritual self continues to grow stronger and more available, the love bombing loses its power. Not because you stop remembering, but because the need it exploited is finally, genuinely being met. Now take one final breath in through the nose, long and complete, and as you exhale, let any shame left in your body go. You are reaching toward love. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be honored. And when you're ready, allow yourself to come back to the present time and open your eyes. Today we met the exile who needed the love that was finally properly seen, not judged for what she reached toward, but seen, and the part that always knew she was finally properly thanked. Sit with this one gently this week. You may listen to it often. You may find that things surface, memories, feelings, the particular grief of realizing that what felt like the most significant love of your life was partly constructed. That grief is real and it deserves space. Let it have its space. It is part of the completion. Now in the next episode 14, the new moon in Gemini, the moon of the mind, of voices, of the many selves we contain, we're going to go a little deeper into IFS, into the self, the 8 C's, the difference between living from a part and living from the self. And we also plant the seed of self-leadership under the most intellectually alive new moon of the year. It is a beautiful one. You can find me here every week offering you a safe place to land. If today stirred something in you, if the exile who needed the love bombing felt seen for the first time, or if the part that always knew finally felt acknowledged, this work goes so much deeper in a one-to-one session. The parts work, the somatic healing, the subconscious reprogramming, together in your own time at your own pace. I offer private sessions that are personalized specifically for you, because healing this deep deserves a guide who has walked this road and can hold space that allows you to feel safe to take the next step. When you're ready, I'm here. You deserved the real love then, and you deserve it now. And finding your way to it begins with understanding what happened. If you'd like to book a free discovery call, you can find the link in the show notes below. And before you go, I would truly love to hear from all of you. Please leave a comment. Tell me which part of the love bombing story did you recognize most? The part that believed it completely, the part that sensed something was off, or the part that stayed because leaving the love, even the manufactured love, felt impossible. There is no wrong answer. Every answer is someone else's truth as well. If Soul Whispers is part of your healing, I'm so glad you're here. Please subscribe if you haven't already so you never miss an episode. And please leave a thumbs up if today helped, and share this with one person who still blames themselves for believing it. This episode will tell them it was designed to be believed. And remember, my dear friend, you are loved and you are already home. Love and hugs till next week.